All right, so we're just gonna be running through these multiple choice questions. We are basically looking for synonyms, and this is a test of vocabulary range. So at the end of this test, you will basically be able to have a good idea of your vocabulary range. You know, where does your range stop? Just how many? Just what is the extent of your vocabulary? And if you're not getting many of these questions right, then no need to panic. You know that you will have to do some work specifically geared towards building your vocabulary. So let's get into it. The instructions. The instructions. Here are 60 brief phrases, each containing one italicized word. It is up to you to check the closest definition of each such word. To keep your score valid, refrain from, as far as possible, wild guessing. All right, here we go. So we're looking for synonyms. You're going to see one italicized word, for example, disheveled in number one, and you're going to look at A, B, C, D, and E, and choose the best synonym, the word closest in meaning. So we should be used to these kinds of vocabulary exercises. We know that even on CSEC past papers, we see a few questions like these almost every year when it comes to synonyms or antonyms. All right. So in the chat, if you're brave enough, just write the answers by writing a number and a letter. For example, 1E, right? For example, 1E. By the way, number one's answer is not E. That's just an example. All right, bam. Number one, disheveled appearance. Not much of a context given. You either know or you don't know. Disheveled appearance. Have you ever been described as disheveled? Disheveled here is a pretty common usage of this word. Saying one's hair is disheveled. All right, we've started off with a question that isn't too rough. There are going to be some hard ones, but this one isn't hard at all. Disheveled, that's definitely untidy, unkempt, not looking very sane, not looking very clean or well put together. Hair is all over the place, you know, clothes all rugged and torn up and just not looking very good. Disheveled. All right, pretty good. Pretty good. Number two, a baffling problem. And number two is actually tricky. So think about it carefully. There are two answers that are quite close, but one is a little bit better than the other. Disheveled, a baffling problem. Baffling problem. Robin Hood says 2C. Aaron says 2C. Welcome, Aaron. Thanks for being here. Yeah. Aaron, you're here pretty often. Why don't I use the highlighter instead? The highlighter looks good. Yeah. All right, so number two, I thought this was going to be a tough one, but everyone's saying C, and you'd all be right. Baffling, puzzling. And the trick answer here would be difficult. Difficult is there to trip you up because it's a little bit close in meaning, but baffling, puzzling, perplexing, that's just a bit more on the money. All right, cool. Number three, lenient parent. This is a word we can use to describe some parents, some teachers. Yeah. Typically someone who has some kind of authority over someone else. Those kinds of persons can be described as either being lenient or not being lenient. All right, this one is actually pretty straightforward too. Not strict. So we know that the opposite of lenient is strict. So if your parent is lenient, they will let you get away with lots of things. Perhaps if you misbehave, if you do some really, really naughty stuff, some crazy stuff, they might just give you a little slap on the wrist, or they might just say, "Oh, it's fine, it's okay. Boys will be boys. Kids have to grow and learn." And maybe you will very rarely have to face consequences or punishment. Some teachers are pretty lenient too. Yeah, I think I'm a lenient teacher, right? Right, Ashley? Yeah, yeah, yeah. All right, number 4. Repulsive personality. Ooh, if someone says you are repulsive, what are they saying about you? Is it a compliment or is it not? Repulsive personality. All right, let me see. Robin Hood says A. Aaron joining up with A as well. Michaela says A as well. Repulsive. Yeah. Disgusting. Disgusting. Ooh, what a strong word, right? What are some other synonyms you guys can come up with for repulsive? Let me know in the chat. Let me know if you can give me, with your combined efforts, if you can give me five additional synonyms for repulsive. If um someone can be repulsive, that's definitely not a good thing to say about a person. But also a place can be repulsive. Food can be repulsive if it stinks or if it doesn't look presentable. So anything that disgusts you, anything that turns you away, nasty. Ooh, yeah, nasty is kind of a synonym. Yeah, nasty is pretty much right there with repulsive. How else can we describe something that is repulsive? Repulsive. I can think of a couple of synonyms. Uh, a nice one is, and by nice, I don't mean it means nice, but it's one that is, it's pretty neat to use this when you can. Oh, filthy. That's a good one, Robin Hood. I like revolting. Revolting, especially when it comes to taste or a smell. Repellent. Yes, Ashley, repellent. I mean, we know that's coming from repel, to push away. Something is pushing you away because it's so nasty, it's so disgusting. Repellent. Yeah, repellent. Or we could say repugnant. Oof. That's another pretty rough one. Vile, foul. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And we have an antonym here when we look at attractive. We have attractive, which would be an antonym. Horrendous. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's another good one. All right, on to number 5. So bam, 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 bam. 5. Audacious attempt. An audacious attempt. She made an audacious attempt. Why would an attempt be audacious? Who could be considered audacious? Audacious. Robin Hood, Aaron, Ashley, all converging up on the B. Yeah, audacious, bold. That's right. Bold. Yeah, fearless, or perhaps courageous. How else could we? What other synonyms could we find for audacious? If someone makes an audacious move, or if someone a person themselves could be audacious. She's an audacious person. He's audacious. Yeah, he showed great audacity in whatever action. Yeah, audacious, bold. Sometimes we say brazen. Brazen. Audacity can be positive or negative. Yeah, brazen indeed, Robin Hood. It can be positive or negative, depending on how it is used. Of course, it can be linked to hey TS, thank you for being here. Audacity can be linked to disrespect and floating the rules, not following the rules, being a bit deviant. So audacity can be linked to that kind of connotation, but it can also be linked to a kind of courage or bravery. The having the will and the just having the character to stand up in difficult times and face challenges and be the one to challenge authority when necessary, even in a positive way. So it could mean insolent or impudent in a negative sense, but it can also mean brave, fearless, if you want to take it to a positive sense. All right, nice one, nice one, nice one. Parry. This isn't one I see very often at the CSEC level. This is actually a word I encountered a lot when it came on to the Legend of Zelda: Breath of the Wild with the shield parry. But you guys have no idea what I'm talking about. Yeah, parry, to parry a blow, for example, to parry an attack, to parry something. Robin Hood says eh, while Aaron says eh. Parry, parry, parry. Yeah, this is one that some of you might not know. Yeah, perhaps if you read enough, action fiction, fantasy fiction, or so on, you might encounter this word. Ashley and Michaela are wondering about B. Merksman, welcome Merksman. What a name! Merksman is saying, "See, well, only a few of you managed to parry the difficulty of this question. To parry means to ward off or to deflect or to dodge or to sidestep or to elude. Yeah, so when you parry something, you basically dodge it. You are not hit by the attack. You do not fall victim to whatever is thrown at you. So another good, we have a phrase, verb here in ward off, to ward off something. But another good one would be to fend off, fend off, or ward off, even to put off sometimes. Yeah. So keep that word in mind. Keep that word in mind. All right, number 7, prevalent, as in a prevalent disease. Prevalent, prevalent, prevalent. This is a prevalent word. I see this word all the time in CSEC writings and CSEC level writings. Prevalent. If something is prevalent, then it is everywhere. I'm seeing the ease. Yeah, widespread. What are some other? This is an important word because we get the chance to use it pretty often in essays at the CSEC level. What are some other words that could replace prevalent or widespread that you can think of? Someone says dangerous. Not. I mean, so a prevalent disease could be dangerous. So I see you're using context clues because disease spells danger. But if it's prevalent, it means it's widespread. It's affecting a large area. What other words could we use to swap out prevalent? Predominant or prevailing could work in some instances. Prevalent, popular, yeah, well, popular could work, but I think popular usually has a positive connotation. So most times when we say prevalent, it's talking about something bad. So you would want to use a word that also have a negative connotation. Widespread. Something is rife with something. Um, the city is rife with crime. Ashley says extensive. Yeah, yeah, that's a synonym. That's sometimes a synonym. Yeah, rampant could work too. Rampant, and we have pervasive and pervasive, which are kind of synonyms. Yeah, 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 yeah. A word that I really like that could replace widespread is ubiquitous. Let me write that one in the chat because you guys don't even know that word. You guys have no idea. Ubiquitous. That's a lovely word. And this is more than just prevalent. This means it is everywhere. You can't walk a step without seeing this or without experiencing this. It is ubiquitous. Viral, yeah, that's also a good one. Viral, and we nowadays we use viral to talk about social media content that everyone is familiar with. It's everywhere. Viral video, viral meme. Well, all memes are kind of viral. That's how they become memes. At least viral in certain spaces. All right, cool. That's a nice little word there. Widespread. I see the word catching here. I don't like the word catching. It sounds like a primary school word. Catching as in a disease. What's just a better word for catching? If we're talking about a disease that is easily passed around. This isn't one of the questions, but since we have the word here, I would want to see the word catching in an essay. Transmitting. I mean, you want an adjective that is describing a disease that can be easily transmitted, but I wouldn't say transmitting. Contact. Give me an adjective. How would you describe something like a cold, a common cold? It's easy to spread. You cough 2 times and somebody else gets it. Hmm. Well, how would you describe that kind of a disease? I mean, it could be a virus, but what adjective do we use to talk about how easily it can spread from one person to the next? Something that would replace catching here, if that's what they're aiming for. Contagious is the word I was looking for. Yeah, I was looking for contagious. Infectious is another word that sometimes works, or communicable sometimes works as well. So you said transmitting, Robin Hood, but I would say transmittable since we're looking for an adjective. All right, that was a bit off topic there. Let's jump back to the question. Number 8, ominous. This is a word I like. I like this word. An ominous report, an ominous sign, an ominous message. When something is ominous, what are we saying about it if we say that something is ominous? Ominous. Robin Hood is wondering if it could be B. Aaron says it's E. When I think of the word ominous, I think of Orochimaru. Do you know Orochimaru? Do you guys know who Orochimaru is? Orochimaru. You guys have no idea who Orochimaru is. That's very sad. Google Orochimaru. You will see a very ominous figure. Yeah. Ominous, an ominous report. The woman received an ominous phone call at midnight. I'm giving you hints with the context clues here. Aaron says that's Snake Dude. Yeah, he looks like an even creepier version of Michael Jackson with ninja abilities. Very, very scary. So yeah, ominous means threatening. Threatening. If something is ominous, it causes fear. It causes you to shiver, right? Ominous. It's a little bit on the creepy, scary side of things. Yeah. So imagine that shadowy silhouette, that shadowy figure in the alleyway with the trench coat on at night, you might think of the word ominous, right? Another word that is pretty good is sinister. Sinister, not sister. Sinister. Sinister kind of means the same as ominous, right? So in your story writing, guys, story writing. This is a story word. Ominous, sinister. Remember these words because guess what? If you want to paint that picture to really creep out your readers, to have them at the edge of their seats, and you want to create that fearful suspense, you want to use words like ominous. You want to use words like sinister. You want to use words like menacing. Yeah, these are the kind of words you want to use. You want to use words like foreboding. Yeah, these are some good words. Some good words. So that's a nice word for story writing, for a story writing question. Your section D on the paper too. Yeah, ominous. Of course, you could use this in all the sections, but I see it as more of a story word because of the meaning and the different connotations, and also the kind of moods that you can create with words like ominous. All right. 9, an incredible story. Incredible. When something is incredible, what do we mean? Incredible. Have you guys ever watched The Incredibles? All right, Robin Hood, get back here as soon as you can. All right, incredible. I'm seeing some bees. Aaron questioning himself. All right, if something is incredible, why would you say it's interesting? Look at the word credible. If something is credible, as in a credible source, a credible news source, a credible article, it means you can trust it, you can believe it. If something is incredible, it means you can't believe it. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. But credible has incredible has, I think, two main applications. You can say that something is incredible, and this is the less popular application. You can say that something is incredible when you cannot trust it. For example, this scientific report came from a dubious group of scientists, so it is incredible. We can't trust it. But also, incredible can mean amazing. It is so amazing. Like, so you use the word not in a very literal sense, but wow, this is unbelievable. It's incredible. It's so amazing. It's so awesome. And so you can use it in that kind of hyperbolic sense. So not really meaning that you can't trust it, but it's so great and or so good that you just can't believe it's happening. Yeah. Incredible. So you could use it in that negative sense I talked about earlier, or you can use it in the positive sense. And we're not looking at connotation and denotation today. Maybe I'll spend a whole lesson looking at that. But these words can be used with can be used in different connotations depending on how you want them to fit a certain context or scenario. But we look at connotation another time when I'm dealing, just with that. All right. Who is an ophthalmologist? Number 10. What is this medical professional's specialty? The ophthalmologist. Do we know this one? All right. Aaron, you have it. This doctor deals with the eye. Eye doctor. Yeah. So, do I know this off the top of my head? I might not know these off the top of my head right now. I don't want to give you misinformation, but check in your own time what we call these specialists, because who knows, you might get the chance to mention one or two of those words in an essay. Not super likely, but it would be cool. All right, 11. Supersede. For example, something will supersede the old law. Supersede. Note the you got the up from optical. That's a good connection there. When we break down these words into the different pieces, looking at the etymology of the words and so on, you can use those little hints to figure out what they might mean. Yeah. Supersede, supersede. Supersede. If something supersedes something else, um, what does that mean? And note the spelling for supersede. It's one of those words that I'm not sure if I've ever seen it come up on like the spelling section of English A, but it's one of those trickier words that a lot of students, a lot of people can't spell. Yeah, it's not CEED or SEED, it's SEDE. All right, so if something supersedes something else, it takes the place of it, it replaces it, it becomes the new thing. Another word for supersede can be succeed, and we know that succeed generally usually means to accomplish something, but it can also mean to like rise into a position and take the position of the person who is leaving the position. So this person will, so for example, I will succeed Aaron as president. I will become the next president when Aaron retires. Or I could say supersede. So supersede, to kind of rise up and take the place of something else. That something else that is being replaced is now the old thing, no longer the thing, the old thing, the old law, the previous one, perhaps obsolete, no longer useful. All right, 12, an anonymous donor. Anonymity. 12, anonymous. Anonymous, I'm seeing some D's for anonymous. Anonymous, anonymous, anonymous. All right, let's see. Aaron, D. Michaela, D. Marksman, D. All right, cool. Yeah. Anonymous means unknown or unidentified. The name here, as in synonym or antonym or pseudonym, is name. When you say a word with this name in it, usually it has something to do with a name. For example, synonym, the sin, same, name, same name, words with a similar meaning. Yeah. So the name can mean like name or meaning or something like that. All right. That wasn't a tough one. Anonymous isn't a very, very rare word. Right. All right. We're at 13. 13. Performed an autopsy. What is an autopsy? Autopsy. Autopsy. You see some B's. Yep, it's the examination of a corpse to determine the cause of death. When someone dies, perhaps a part of the investigation might be an autopsy to figure out how this person died, especially if it is thought that there might be foul play. There might have been someone at fault or so on. The autopsy deals with the cause of death. All right. 14. Indefatigable. This is another word that I really, really like. Indefatigable. You might be able to see the word fatigue within this word. and we see the prefix in, right? We know what the prefix in means. We know what it does. Indefatigable. 14. Aaron is saying A while Michaela says D. Well paid? What? Look at the word. We have fatigue. We know what fatigue is, right? Fatigue is close to tired. But we have the in. In usually means opposite. For example, direct and indirect, right? Opposite. Able. Being able to do something. It creates that verb in a word. For example, eat. If you can eat it, it's edible, right? Spend. If you can spend the money, it is spendable. So fatigue, in, able. You cannot get tired. So fatigable would mean you can get tired. Indefatigable means you just can't get tired. So you are tireless. So you can use this word to describe people who can work and work and work and work and go all day long with incredible stamina. They never fall asleep. They never get exhausted. Yeah, that's it, Nadim. Yeah. Indefatigable. Tireless. What are some other words we could use as synonyms? This is an interesting one. Tireless. Tireless is oh man. I saw that word today. Where did I see the word tireless? The tireless hummingbird. It's in the English B poem Landscape Painter Jamaica. I saw the word tireless today. Tireless, indefatigable. Yeah. Maybe the best synonym I can come up with is persevering. You know, someone is persistent or persevering. They kind of push through tiredness. And so it kind of seems as if they never become tired. So it's more of an attitude than a superpower. It's not that they can't get tired, but it's that they keep working anyway. All right, 15. A confirmed atheist. Who is an atheist? Okay, 15 is easy. A disbeliever in God. Yeah. One who doesn't believe in God is an atheist. Yeah. Atheist. Mm-hmm. Um, Another word that is sometimes confused with atheist is the word that I'm going to put in the chat right now. Agnostic. Have you ever heard the word agnostic? You might have heard this word being used as if it means atheist, but it's not the same. An atheist disbelieves in God. An atheist believes that there is no God. But what about an agnostic? What does an agnostic believe? Oh, the chat goes silent. This is a hard one. And by the way, the opposite of an atheist is a theist. A theist believes in God. An atheist doesn't. The A means opposite. An agnostic believes that we cannot know whether or not God is real. So it's not that they disbelieve, it's that they're kind of saying, well, we just don't know, we can't know. So God may or may not be real. That is the agnostic. Yeah. So keep those adjectives in mind. They might come in handy. All right. Loquacity. The adjective would be loquacious. Loquacity. Endless. This is a little hint here. Endless loquacity. Oh yeah, Nadim coming in with a nice little explanation for the agnostic or atheist. They're pretty close. Ooh, you got it, Nadim. Talkativeness. If you're loquacious, you can't stop talking. Can't stop talking. So loquacity, talkativeness. What other synonyms can we find for loquacity? Another good word for our stories, if we need to describe a character who just talks too much, very talkative, you can say that character is loquacious. Yeah. Or that character shows endless loquacity. So yeah, talkativeness. If someone is talkative, if that person talks too much, especially if they're talking nonsense most times, then you could describe them as being garrulous. Garrulous. Ga. Let me write that one in the chat. This one is not a compliment. Garrulous. So you can think of garrulousness as verbal diarrhea. You know what diarrhea is. So imagine the verbal form of that. It's just coming out, coming out, coming out, non-stop. Yeah. Hmm. Expressive. Wouldn't be. Mhm. Expressive wouldn't be strong enough, perhaps, because expressive just means that a person expresses themselves well, or they like expressing, or they can express. But you can express yourself in many ways, not just by talking. But the talkativeness, the verbosity is another nice one I like. You say a verbose speaker. It means they like to use many words. So verbosity is a little bit different because verbosity takes into account writing as well. So you can say a verbose essay, a verbose story, um, uh, or a verbose speaker. Whereas garrulousness and loquacity is usually just about talking. All right, cool. Let's check on glib. A glib talker. So we're still talking about talking. A glib talker. If someone is glib in how they speak, think about what was his name? Squealer in Animal Farm, if you do English B. Yeah, glib talker. Smooth. You have that charisma, you have a way with words, you're able to sweet talk your way out of situations and stuff like that. Yeah. All right, 18. Incorrigible. Some say incorrigible, some say incorrigible. I say incorrigible. 18. 18. Incorrigible. And don't confuse it with encourageable. We're not encouraging anybody. Yeah. And this one means it just cannot be fixed. It is so broken, it can't be fixed. It's beyond correction or reform. Another word might be irreparable, especially if it's a physical thing. But incorrigible usually talks about non-physical things like behaviors, like an incorrigible thief. It means no matter what you do, how much you preach, you will always be a thief. That behavior cannot be straightened out. Yeah. 19. Another word that I see a lot in my favorite anime, which is Naruto. Ocular. Ocular. Oh yeah, irreparable would be another good one for that for as a synonym. Irreversible damage, yeah. All right, so we're at 19. Ocular. Ocular jutsu. Ocular. Ocular. Ocular means visual, having to do with the eye. Ocular. Ocular. So just remember that. All right, 20. I guess we need to go a little bit faster if we're going to get to all 60. 20. A notorious demagogue. Wow. We're getting into the tough words now. No? We're getting into the tough ones now. Who is a demagogue? Nadim giving us some extra information on ocular. So if you're a bio student, you should be able to relate. And if not, you can use this to kind of remember the meaning if you can. It sounds like something from Harry Potter. Yeah, it sounds like something from Stranger Things to me, you know. Yeah, or Harry Potter. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Demagogue. It does sound a little ancient and scary and fantastical. Who is a demagogue? Demagogue. Demagogue. This one is tricky because the answer for this one is another strange word that you might not know. You guys are saying A. Hmm. A demagogue, rabble rouser. But who is a rabble rouser? Are we any closer to the meaning? Um, it's the kind of person who stirs up trouble verbally, stirs up trouble. So they're able to incite violence or panic or confusion by just talking. You know, they are the ones who, if there are two persons who are upset with each other, the rabble rouser can get them to fight. Yeah, they're the kind of a troublemaker. They know want to stir up problems and so on, you know, with their words. Yeah, that kind of person. Demagogue. All right. Naive isn't that hard one, I think. Naive attitude, a naive person. So naive can describe an attitude or a decision. It can describe an action. It can describe a person. Naive. And it's a pretty tough one here. Looking at the options in the book, it's very tricky. Given the options you have in the book, it's quite a tricky one. Oh man, I knew the A's would come. Naive isn't necessarily unwise. Unwise is a bit too harsh, right? Hostile? No way. No way. Hostile. If someone is naive or makes a naive decision, um, here between unwise and unsophisticated, you'd have to go with unsophisticated. It's not. It's not really a kind of stupidity. It's more of a kind of unrefinedness of thought. A person just isn't experienced enough to have a more polished thought process. So don't look at it as someone being stupid. Look at it as just an unsophisticated way of thinking. For example, a child would be considered naive. But if you see an adult doing the same childish thing, you wouldn't say they're naive, you would say they're stupid or foolish. But because a child is just not yet at the level where they would be expected to act like an adult, then you wouldn't say unwise, you would more say naive. So it's more of an unsophistication. Um, Clueless. Clueless sounds a little bit more extreme, but clueless isn't bad. It's in the same ballpark. They're naive could mean innocent too, like the innocence of a child who doesn't know. It's a kind of innocent ignorance, a kind of gullibleness that we associate with children. So this one was tough. Unwise is very close, but unsophisticated is just a little bit more accurate. All right, 22. Affluence. 22 is easy, I think. 22. A sub-year analysis of one was greater scale. Oh, thank you very much. I appreciate that. What poem analysis did you watch, or did you watch many of them? Mm. Affluence is related to having resources. It means wealthy. That's right. Wealthy, rich, luxurious. Yep. Yes. Affluence, wealth. All right, 23. Oh, a dream within a dream. That's not even a CSEC poem. Mm. Hey, Nadim, are you a CSEC student or teacher? Who knows? Or are you here just because you really love language and lit that much? And we're on to 23 for those still with us. Retrospect. And we usually say in retrospect. In retrospect, I think it was a bad idea to buy that phone. In retrospect. So, what is this retrospect? Look at the word retro and look at the word spect, and you will be able to piece together the meaning. Yeah, in retrospect. Retrospect. 23, view of the past. Yeah. Retro, back, spect, view. Spect, like specter, spectate, spectacle. So it's basically looking back. Uh, another word we can use for retrospect is hindsight. And again, hind, back, sight, look back, hindsight, retrospect. Yeah. And if you wanna add a more positive spin to it, you could say reminiscence if you're looking back in a fond way. Or you could just say recollection if you want to be more neutral, more general. Ah, Wuthering Heights. Nice. That's very good to hear, Nadim. Well, thank you for being here. Thank you for joining the live. Michaela says A or E. Yeah, A. All right. 24. A gourmet. Who is a gourmet? Gourmet could also be an adjective used to describe something, a particular kind of thing. Gourmet. Aaron says a seasoned traveler. Something is seasoned, but it's not the traveler. It is instead the chicken. connoisseur of good food, a person who knows anything and everything um about food. Connoisseur, they will go to the restaurants and review the restaurants, and they know if something is overcooked by 1 second. They can tell. Connoisseur of good food. But gourmet can also be used to describe opulent, luxurious food. A gourmet meal or a gourmet chef is a chef that creates that kind of food. Oh, Ashley, you hate literature, so you can't relate to Nadim. Oh man. All right. 25. To simulate, for example, to simulate interest. There are some people who think we're living in a simulation. I even touched on that in a dream within a dream. What is a simulation? What does it mean to simulate? To simulate something. Simulate. 24. When doing experiments, whether in biology or even in like IT stuff like that, simulations are very important. When we want to see how something would play out in the real world, before we test it in real life, we simulate it and see how it goes. Right? To pretend. So a simulation is not the real thing, it's just a pretense of that thing. It's like an imitation. All right, or it could be an emulation if you're really trying to kind of recreate it, maybe in a digital sense. Yes, that is right. To pretend, to simulate, to kind of mimic something to see what it would be like, right? So if you want to see the effect of a certain deadly virus on society, we wouldn't just release the virus and see how many people die. We might be able to run some kind of simulation to get some kind of data from that. Yeah. All right. Magnanimous. For example, a magnanimous action. That's another big word, magnanimous. Noun would be mag magnanimity. Magnanimity, yeah. Mm. Magnanimous. That mag, what does that mag mean? Magna, when you look at words like magnificent. Yeah, magnanimous. No attempts on magnanimous. It's a bombastic word. It will have a very little meaning. Sometimes, yeah, the big superfluous words are the ones that are least impactful in terms of meaning. But this one means generous. Magnanimous, it's a very fancy word. And we often use this to describe actions like big donations, a magnanimous donation or a magnanimous donor. You're donating millions. It could also mean charitable. So you're generous or charitable, benevolent, that kind of thing. Magnanimous. All right, 17. Another word I like, 27 rather. Clandestine. It reminds me of, we looked at sinister, we looked at ominous. Clandestine is in that same field of connotation. A clandestine meeting, a clandestine operation, a clandestine committee. I've given you some hints. Clandestine. Clandestine. The last time I remember hearing that word was in The show Blacklist, I think. Very, very good show. Clandestine, secret or secretive. Yeah, kept away from the public eye, kept away from view. Um, kind of undercover. Undercover is a nice is a nice synonym. Most times, this is another word that would be good to throw into your stories if if it's appropriate. Kind of stealthy, secretive, covert. You know, clandestine. All right, 18. Apathetic. Again, the a here is showing opposite. So if you know what pathos relate to, as in pathetic or sympathetic, then the opposite of that would be apathetic. 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 28. D. And the answer gives us a number of synonyms here: indifferent, uninterested, uninvolved. So if you're apathetic, basically you don't care. You don't care one way or another. Apathetic. All right, 29. Placate or placate for some persons. Placate. To placate his son. What do we think? Synonym. 29, guys. Waiting on your answers. Should we stop at 30 today? E would be correct. Yes, to placate means to make someone less angry. You try to appease them so they calm down. So to placate my son, I give him what he wants most times. Yeah, yeah. So that would be E here. Just pleasing someone to kind of make them less angry or to change that mood from anger to happiness. Vacillate, to vacillate continually. Vacillate is another nice word when you're doing more formal, more non-fiction kind of writing. Vacillate. Or you saw it in the Sunday Times. Yeah, to hesitate, to jump between 2 points, 2 options, 2 decisions. So when you're vacillating, you haven't made up your mind, you're just kind of going back and forth. And it's not just in indecision, but it could be, the vacillation could be a physical one. Think about a pendulum swinging from side to side. That pendulum can be said to be vacillating. Yeah, vacillate. It's a nice word, isn't it? All right, 31. Nostalgic, a nostalgic feeling. If you're nostalgic, what does it mean? What does it mean to be nostalgic? Known here being nostalgia. What is nostalgia all about? Ajani says E. Delighted. Nadim agrees with Ajani, I take it. Really? I often sit in nostalgic thought. My mind wanders off into nostalgia. There we go with the good old games from the good old days. GTA Vice City brings nostalgia. It does. It brings me nostalgia too. But Nadim, you said you're 16. You have nostalgia from Vice City? What? Yeah. That nostalgia is really that feeling of homesickness, thinking, yeah, kind of wistful. That's it, Michaela. That's a nice synonym. You're just there, kind of daydreaming about the good times. Yeah, nostalgic. So that would be homesick. Yeah, wistful is a beautiful synonym for nostalgic. What other synonyms could we think of for nostalgic? It's a word. It's a word that can be used to describe um, tone and mood in poetry for the poetry people. So the poem South has a nostalgic tone. Yeah, because the speaker is, for the most part, fondly remembering, his time back in the Caribbean. It's wistful, sentimental, homesick. Yeah, it's kind of that yearning for the past. Yeah. All right. Should we run through to 60 or do we stop at, say, 40 today? What do we do? 32, antipathy. Look at the word anti or anti, not the word, the prefix. And then the same pathy that we saw in apathy earlier on. What is the antipathy? So this would be, I guess, the opposite of sympathy. Yeah, antipathy. At number 32. Suspense? Why suspense? Why suspense? Look at the same pathy here, the same pathos. It has to do with some kind of feeling or emotion towards something. So what does anti generally mean? Anti is against something, right? Against. For example, anti-terrorism, fighting against terrorism. Anti-cheating, fighting against cheating. Yeah. Antipathy, you're not showing any sympathy basically. So we have apathy in the middle, sympathy on the positive end, and then we'd have antipathy on the negative end. So it would be like aggressiveness or animosity, hatred, hostility. Yeah, that kind of stuff. All right, circumspect. Circumspect. If someone is circumspect, what does that mean? Circumspect. This is one of the more advanced words on this test. Circumspect. And I think we can get a good sense of the word by just looking at how it's made up. We see circum, and we know that has to do with what? Circle or environment or surrounding. For example, circumnavigation or circumference, circle, or even circumcise. Yeah. And then we have spect, which we've seen earlier on the test, which has to do with sight. So imagine the kind of person who is looking everywhere, checking all the surroundings. That would be a very cautious person, right? Cautious, 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 careful, prudent, thoughtful. This kind of person doesn't act without thinking. All right, 34, an intrepid fighter. Intrepid. We've seen a synonym to this earlier on the test. Yeah. An intrepid fighter. Intrepid. I guess the word fighter might give you a little bit of a hint. I don't know. Perhaps intrepid. So we're at 34. It says here an intrepid fighter for human rights, fearless or courageous. And an adjective we saw um, that could be a good match for this was audacity. Audacity. We saw audacity. Yeah. Yeah. To fight for human rights, you have to be intrepid. You have to be fearless. Yeah. Not really caring about the consequence. You're doing what you have to do. You're doing, you're fulfilling your duty regardless of the consequence that you'll have to face. Intrepid. All right. Diaphanous. Ooh, this one is dangerous, man. Diaphanous, very tough one. Diaphanous material. If something is diaphanous, what does that mean? I'll give you a hint. It describes the texture of something. Diaphanous. This is not a word you will likely need to use or understand in your exams, right? Diaphanous, sheer, and gauzy, kind of translucent or transparent as well. Yeah. Yeah, don't worry too much about that one. Taciturn. Taciturn um is a good word to know. Another good descriptor for characters in your stories. Taciturn. And it's an antonym to a word we've looked at on this very test. It's an antonym or an opposite. It's the opposite of um, loquacious. We looked at loquacious earlier. So if it's the opposite of loquacious, then what does it mean? Remember, loquacious means overly talkative. So if taciturn is its opposite, then taciturn must mean what? Stingy. Why stingy? Stingy means you don't like spending money. But this person doesn't like spending words, apparently. All right, Michaela, take it easy. So taciturn means disinclined to conversation or not talkative, quiet, not really enjoying conversation. Taciturn. Okay, let's head to 40 and then we'll stop there. Maybe in the next stream we'll pick up from 41. All right, 37, malign. The mal here, we see this on many words, and it always has a negative connotation, like malnourished, malnutrition. To malign, to slander, or to kind of embarrass, or to speak badly about someone. Malign, yeah. Accuse, accusations could be a part of it as well. Okay, congenital. We're almost at the end. We're stopping at 40 today. And then another time we might do the remaining 20. Congenital, 38. Congenital. Welcome, Pegasus. All right, I guess this one is a bit tough. Oh, Nadim has it. Occurring at or during birth. So we can talk about congenital condition, congenital disease, or congenital whatever. It just means It has to do with at birth, happening at birth or during birth. All right, so just two more for today. Neurosis. The neuro here, we know what that has to do with, right? The neuro, like a neurosurgeon, neuroscience, mind. What is this cis all about? I believe this cis might relate to disease. Yeah, a lot of diseases end in cis. So if you put those two together, what do we get? If you put mind and disease together, we get something like an emotional disturbance. Yeah. All right, last one for today. Made an unequivocal statement. Unequivocal. Unequivocal. Look at the word, or look at the piece of the word equal, equinox, equator. This equality. But we have on, which means not. It's the opposite. And then we have the al, making it into an adjective. So if something is unequivocal, it means there is no equal to it. There's nothing that is equal to it. And what this translates to is it is very clear. Why is it very clear? It's kind of tricky to weave through the meaning of this one. It's very clear because it's not ambiguous. When something is ambiguous, it could mean multiple things. But if it's unequivocal, it can only mean one thing. There's nothing else. It couldn't possibly mean anything else. So it's clear, it's unmistakable, right? There's nothing you can confuse it with. So if I say I am the best in the world, that is unequivocal. It's very clear what I mean. You don't need to ask for clarification. You know exactly what I mean. All right, let's call it that for now. I wanted us to run until 60, but let's call it an early day. And the next time we'll touch on the other 20 questions and then perhaps some other vocab stuff. Yeah. How well did you guys do? I think you guys did pretty well. Yeah. Adios, Pegasus. Take it easy. Thanks for joining the live, guys. Yeah. And I'll see you guys next Sunday. Yeah. We're live every Sunday. Every Sunday we do some English A or B stuff. We do some English or literature stuff. Yeah. And if you guys missed the previous live streams, check those out. We did some grammar lessons the last couple of times. All right, guys, take it easy. See you next time.